All right, we have a quorum. We'll call the first meeting of April together for the Introduced Town Board. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. If you have cell phones, if you wouldn't mind turning them off or on vibrate. And a reminder to the board to please speak into the microphone. The clerk will note all supervisors are present, in addition to the administrator and the clerk treasurer. Would you please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We need to approve the agenda, and I would like to, by consensus, move public input up in between or after the payment of bills. Okay.
Make a motion to approve as recommended.
Okay. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. We have the minutes of the 16th of March. Are there any additions or corrections, please? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. And next we have the administrator's report. Glenn?
I just received an email from the Town Association that there's been a couple of acts passed by the legislature changing a few things about property assessment regarding certification, taking out some obsolete references from the statutes as, for example, gift tax or sleeping cars, which are not referenced or used anymore. Chargebacks and rescinded taxes have been tweaked a little bit. A municipality has to be within 10% once every 10 years, every 6 years, and they're eliminating the assessor schooling if the municipality falls out of compliance. Been down with the assessor inspecting or inspectors inspecting the Grandview building, and he's issued a report which I believe I distributed to the board. Been working with AECom previously on the Ellison Bay Harbor study, which is put on hold now at this point, as far as a break wall and a wave action down there. Baldwin is working on the stormwater piping and the on Cedar Branch Road, and also the harbor improvements. I've been talking to the contractors referring to, in reference to paving and the chip seal bids, which are coming in and will be opened at the Highway Committee meeting on the 11th. Janet and I took part in a phone conference regarding an unemployment issue. We had a demo on a floor machine cleaner for the shop, which did a really nice job of picking up the fine grit and material on the floor, so it wouldn't have to get flush down the drain. And the drain's clean out all the time. Unfortunately, the price tag is pretty high on that unit. The salt building has been inspected and passed. The state hires someone from AECom to do that. The new pad that we installed last year passed inspection, as far as the old one was cracked and not in very good shape. There was a municipal clerk webinar that Janet and I attended regarding elections. We had an election training meeting with the county clerk in Sturgeon Bay. And I've been beginning some budget work at this time, getting the old numbers from 15 updated and fine-tuned according to what's in our QuickBooks program and transferred to our budget worksheets. And I'm beginning to look at the road ratings that we did last fall in relation to our 5-year paving schedule, and extending that out, getting a new 5-year schedule implemented. Ordering salt for next year, that's always a guessing game because we and push it back to the winter time. It's always, like I say, a guessing game, because you think, well, we won't have to order as much, but on the other hand, we don't want to be cut short if we do have a more severe winter. That's it.
Any questions, anybody else? All right, thank you. Okay, going on, the approval of the bills. Bud assures me that number 22, for the waivers, the rush are not made by the. Any questions on the bills? If not, I'll move to approve as presented. Is there a second? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion is carried. Okay, going on to public input. This is an opportunity to address the board on any subject and also the any of the agenda subjects. Anybody have any general comments at this point? Yes, sir, if you would, please.
Dennis Pytek from Cedar Hill Lane. We were here at the highway meeting. I don't know if the town has done anything about possibly setting up a survey for paving it. Town even talking about that at all, or not?
What was that again? We were gonna do a survey?
Yeah, according to the highway department.
No, that's not out at this time. We do have gravel roads included in the 5-year plan.
Okay,
I believe the earliest one, without having it in front of me, might have been Beechwood up here off of the Green Road. But in redoing the plan now for the next 5 years, we'll be looking at trying to incorporate some of the gravel roads in addition to what our normal asphalt upgrades would be.
okay. Next thing I have, my daughter submitted 7 or 6 new town logos. So I'd like to see them if they come up.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else, please? Okay, on the agenda items, we'll need names. Anybody on any of the agenda items?
I'm here on
Right.
7.
Mike also?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul?
7,
Number 7?
yep, and 8 and possibly 10.
Okay.
Mhm.
Carol?
Possibly 10?
Jim? Carl?
Possibly 10.
Anybody else, please?
I guess I better say 10 too then.
10 to what?
Possibly 10 too, also.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Okay, and now we'll go on to the agenda item number 7, consider variance request. You want to give the board a quick overview of this, please?
I can give an overview. The planning commission did not hear this last week because of the snowstorm. So we're seeing it first. Basically, and correct me if I'm wrong here, as I understand our packet materials, the 2 pieces of property and the little island are owned by the Johnson Family Trust. And the island, which is a little over 2 acres, is separated by that little channel, and they are requesting a variance to place structures within the 75-foot high water mark that will support a bridge spanning the 60 feet from the mainland to the island.
Good. Jim, do you want to make
Sure.
comments to the board, please?
Yeah, that's correct. The little island out there, which is not so little, it's 2, put my glasses on here. Let's see, the little island is, 0.591 acres, so a little bit over an acre. Excuse me, it's 2.748 acres. Yeah, I was looking at the building envelope out here. So the island is 2.74 acres, I was talking to Lars about this, because his parents bought this property in 1978, and he said their thought back at that time was they wanted to build a house out here because, you know, this is the nicest place on the lot to have a view of the water. And so I went back and I found the survey map that was done when this property was bought, when the lots were bought on lot 18. And this is a survey dated in 1978 by Ken Brive, right about the time the transaction took place. And at that time, the island area was actually attached to the mainland area, is what he's showing on the survey map. Don't ask me what happened in the meantime, whether it was high water or erosion or what happened, but, you know, there is now I don't know if you wanna call it a ditch or whatever you wanna call it, but there's a little depression in the ground right at this point where, there's a little bit of water down in there. So this is now separated, not separated, but there's a distance between the mainland and call it the island, that you can't drive over if you don't have some type of a platform or a bridge across there. And as you said, the variance, we've got the permit already from the DNR to put the bridge in, but the abutments or abutments are huge pieces of dimension stone that would be set, one on the mainland part and one on the island part. And then the bridge would be set on top of that dimension stone. And there is I think there's a copy of this somewhere in the application documents, but I'm not sure. And I just got this from Mike Carr. It's a bigger document that you can look at, but you can see on this photograph, and I'll pass this around. I mean, right where the bridge is going to go, there's a very little narrow strip of land there, and the whole area out there is basically, when I say bedrock, it's like not exactly bedrock. It's whatever you call this stuff that looks like concrete. I mean, it's all stone out there, all flat stone. So I'm guessing, I'm not an engineer or anything, but I'm guessing that the water action at some point, when the water was high a couple of times, kind of washed away whatever was between the two places. These photographs right here I took because I went out and looked at the property with Lars, and he kind of showed me what was going on. This was like the one nice spring day we had back in March, and I don't even remember what day it was, but it was beautiful out there. Ever since then, it's been, but here as an example is the area where the bridge would go across, and, you know, in February, the dead vegetation from last year is out there, but you can basically see how secluded this whole area is where the bridge is located. So you would not be able to see that unless you took a kayak or something and kind of went around the island and looked through the little notch between the two pieces of land out there. Now these are some aerial photos that I've obtained, and again, the bridge would go right in here, kind of across that little area right there. This is the former Alan Musicanto house right here. I wanted to get a photograph of this whole area just to show the seclusion. The other Johnson lot is to the north of the subject lot that we're talking about right now, so they own both of these lots right now. And again, this is the lot 18, that would be the bridge location. And we walked over here and you cannot see anything of the island or the bridge location or anything from the Musicanto house. There's another photo of that, and you can see the house here, which is set back quite a ways from the water. And these trees are quite tall, so a little ditch, if you want to call it that, right here where the bridge would cross is not visible from the Musicanto house. Even out on the shore, when you're out on the shore, looking down that way, you can't see anything.
Any questions anybody has at this point?
Yeah, I've got some questions. So that's, it doesn't look navigable.
No.
It looks like, kind of like a mud flat or
It
something.
it is,
Okay, okay.
yeah, but it's such, the DNR looked at it and they said, even though that map from 1978 showed that there was land across there, what's there right now, they're saying you can't drive across that.
Yeah, too. The island itself, that does have a clean, non-swampy building area?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, the island kind of rises up. I mean, when you get out to the island, and we did walk out there, you know, it's quite high. I mean, it's not swampy, it's not low. It's amazing. It's an amazing piece of property. It's beautiful out there.
Sorry, Brian first with the survey, he did a very detailed survey, it took him a long time trying to establish all the high water marks and everything he took, so the survey is very detailed, it does show everything, buildable outflows, things like that, so.
Anybody else on the board at this time?
Jim, maybe you can't answer this, but how would they get running electricity out to that?
They would probably have to shoot an underground,
What?
put an underground line in up there to the island.
Will they power up there?
Yeah.
You could probably run it alongside the bridge.
Oh, good point.
That's what the DNR application said, that they intended to run it over the bridge so it wouldn't be visible at all.
Yeah.
Good point.
And actually, the bridge was designed for small truck loading, in case they're propane trucks, or if they have to get a mount or something, you know, just
Mhm.
small, not big trucks, small trucks, so. And we originally had piling in the middle of it, but the DNR kind of frowned against that, so we made a clear span all the way.
Mhm.
There's a bridge similar to this in Southern Door that the county put in at, was it Sugar Creek County Park or something like that? And they went through the variance process back in 2014, I went and looked at the file, so. The county was granted a variance by the Board of Adjustment to put that bridge in. So I think, unless you have any questions, I think the application is pretty self-explanatory. I went over the three items to support the variance.
So I have one quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The lot 18 shows 2 homes on it now, would that be all building sites?
No, that's just an alternate building site. If somebody, if they decided that they wanted to build a house out here, this one would not be built and vice versa.
Okay.
But even if they built the house here, it'd be nice to be able to get out here because, again, when you're on lot 18, because of the location of the island, the view of the water from lot 18 is pretty restricted. You'd end up having to cut a lot of trees down. I know there are restrictions, you'd have to stay within the restrictions, but in order to see anything from this lot, other than looking down this corridor as an example, you'd have to do some cutting on the island, so it's an alternate site where there's no intent to build 2 houses out there.
Thank you.
I think the primary site would be the island, and the other one would be secondary.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a number in the public. You want all those? You want to say them?
Paul Schwingle.
Yeah, Paul Schwengel, Gills Rock. I think when our meeting was canceled for the planning commission to discuss this, you suggested that we have any comments, make them tonight. I read through the permits and things, and if the DNR and everybody else is fine with it, I didn't see anything except the only comment, and I don't know if we have a regulation about it, but they talked about either a concrete abutment or dimension stone, and I would suggest dimension stone just to save the flavor of the place. I have boated around there, and it is a really nice area.
Okay, thank you.
They're gonna use dimensions, so.
Mike, would you be working off land, or you can't get a barge in there, I suppose, there's not enough water?
Working on land, and all I have a permit, we're allowed to do that. You know, when I was out there, it's dry land, it might be, probably right now, I mean, I haven't been out there lately, if the water's up, I was up, I mean, it might be lapping at the edges there, but you know, it's still south out there.
Not much water out there.
Okay, back to the board.
Well, I haven't looked at this before our plan commission meeting and read about it. Nicely answered the questions I have, Attorney Smith. Very clearly shows that we're not talking about anything navigable here. And I do feel that this meets the criteria of a successful variance, and that there are definitely unique property limitations with this property in the form of, I guess you'd call it a wetland or a flatland or something. And I see that no harm to the public interest, the way that they're proposing constructing this as a span instead of a supported bridge. And I do believe that there'd be hardship for them if they were not allowed to do this, that being, a choice piece of property and large enough and dry enough to be buildable.
Want to make a motion, please?
Anybody else want to talk?
I'll do the motion if you want.
Go ahead.
I'll move then, because of no harm to the public, that there would be unnecessary hardship, and that there are unique property limitations, that the town board support the variance before before the Board of Adjustment.
I'll second it.
The second by Guys.
That'd be to send a letter?
Any further discussion? All right, we have a motion to support the variance. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, going on to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Give me a second through.
Jim, were you gonna leave this with the board, or did you need this back?
The extra copy if you want.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you can keep that, great, thank you.
thanks.
Okay, let's go on then to, excuse me, number 8, consider updated town model and design. You should have that information before you. Any questions on it? And also did some mock-ups to stationery as well.
I have a comment, and it's, maybe it's just my anal retentive nature about these things, but I see all 3 of the highlighted, if you will, dots, the red dots. 2 of them are actually hamlets, towns that offer services and gas and eatery and whatever. One of them is not a hamlet. And I find myself thinking, well, you've got Rowley's Bay on there, it's not really a Hills Rock or an Ellison Bay. What about, it's more of a, a feature and a recreational area. What about, other features in the town, like the estuary or Marshall's Point, North Bay, Sand Bay, Appleport? I mean, every place has a name, and I wonder if those type places should be noted maybe with a smaller dot or something to distinguish them from an actual town.
They're not really villages and towns.
Excuse me?
Hills Rock or Ellison Bay are not really towns, they're villages.
No, and I understand that, and they're not villages either, because they'd have to be incorporated to be villages, but we've been calling them hamlets. But some of these other features, Rowley's Bay is more of a feature. It's not a hamlet. It does not offer the same services, and I wonder if that might not be confusing.
What if we, in the case of, any of the ones that you mentioned, think ahead down the line and say, let's, with future signs, let's welcome people to those sites with an additional sign. And not do, I think your point's well taken on Rowley's Bay. The 2 basic hamlets, if you will, that we have are Hills Rock and Ellison. But it's probably appropriate to welcome people to the other.
I would totally agree. We've got a lot of nice features.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Does, the intersection by Q where Door County Bakery is,
Does that have a name?
The one south of there, isn't that the German cell?
South of there
South of
is, yeah,
South of there.
yeah, by
But
Capsules.
we're, yeah, that's way down.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
but as far as I know, no, it's been slated as a commercial center in the comprehensive plan from 2003,
Mhm.
but I don't know that it has a name.
Trouble is, I mean, I sort of agree with Dave on there's things to point out, but the more you put into this map, the less readable it really is.
Well, yeah, I was thinking more that you don't put that on the two welcoming signs into the town, but if we proceed and put a welcoming sign for Ellison Bay and a welcoming sign for Gills Rock, then you extend out, they may be a little bit smaller sign, town that would go welcome you to the Big River
Right.
estuary.
Yeah, well, North Bay, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, can I forget, North Bay at the boat launch there is, needs to have a back over there, that fell in debris, you couldn't launch a boat there if you had to right now.
Yeah, that's been a little difficult out there for a while.
The other thing is that we had talked on Parks and Property of doing some type of signage for the parks.
Correct.
And this, by doing the smaller signs, we can identify other areas like Sand Bay
Mhm.
or, you know, whatever park, Port de Moors or,
Sure.
you know, Isle View Park or wherever. When do we want to do that, I don't know.
Well, maybe the thought there, I'm not sure I'd want a welcoming sign to the cemetery, but maybe it would just be, Liberty Grove.
Waiting for you, John.
Yeah, I know. You don't have to remind me. Well, any other questions anybody has?
You know, if you had that map up there, let's just say Ellison Bay, well, if the only red dot up there was the Ellison Bay dot, it would sort of give you an idea where you are on the map.
Yeah, I don't know that that would be fair to Gills Rock.
Well, when it says welcome to Gills Rock, then Gills Rock would be the only red dot in there.
But as the logo, I think it should be standard throughout, and
Yeah.
I think like should be like, and Rowley Space should be treated like any other with maybe another sign down the road if you're paying about, and that the logo have the two dots. I think, you know, the town is very fortunate to have somebody like that who can contribute something as elegant and descriptive as this, right in our own backyard. I am very impressed by the sophistication and the aesthetics of this.
Well, I'll make a motion to, go ahead.
I guess I would go along with you. Ellison Bay sign and the Gills Rock sign should just have Ellison Bay on it, and the Gills Rock should have just Gills Rock on it, because the main sign, which is the big sign, has both of them on it.
Yes.
So in terms of identifying the individual hamlets, just use the one dot instead of 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever.
And then in the other sign that's individual, could have a dot where that would be as well.
That's a good point.
But are these signs not supposed to be entry signs?
Not these, the big one is the entry sign. The one
Okay,
that,
okay.
that one,
Yeah.
without Rowley's Bay on it, would be the generic one for the town,
Okay.
including the stationary.
That's a good point.
I mean, if you look at the scenic byway signs, they are individual to the area that they're placed in. That's why I asked if the property by Q had a name, because there is an eatery there. But the scenic byway sign is actually at Kepsel's.
Right. And I think that's the reference to the.
The German
settlement.
settlement, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Any comments, Pat?
And my daughter signs ever been looked at and wondered?
Yes.
Yes,
They were?
Yeah, all the signs.
Okay,
and if you want to see them, I can pull up on the computer after the meeting, when they were shown.
Okay, all right, I see, all right, okay, thank you.
I also, I have a printout of, that, they might be on that one.
Oh, yeah.
About the smaller signs for the smaller towns, or what, you know, the, like Rowley's Bay and North Bay. But when I was going through Algoma a month or two ago, they have small signs about the size of like the scenic byway. And they've got them everywhere, I mean, but they're identifying signs for what that area is. Like when you're coming into town and you hit the beach, it says Algoma Beach or whatever on the sign, but it's got their logo on it. So it looks real nice, and they're small, and they're not, you know, too obtrusive. I just wanted to point out that if we take Rowley's Bay off, we can move Gills Rock over, we can maybe stack Ellison Bay on the one side and Gills Rock on the
Yeah.
other, so it won't look so.
Oh, the lettering.
And then on the smaller signs, the capital letters didn't print out properly on the town signs. They're supposed to be like that, like Liberty Grove in caps. You can see in the background on your sheets that the outline letters are caps, but for some reason that font didn't print. Just, you know, it'll look consistent, so whatever, you know, you guys wanna do, if you, like that red looks awfully red, I thought it was more of a burgundy red, you know, but we could finalize stuff like that if I come into the office or something, and if you have, you know, comments, that would be the best way to go to finalize them if you wanna go with these.
It looks really good.
Thank you.
Great.
I was, you know, I threw everything on there. I liked the north little arrow up there, and, you know, I thought maybe you guys would hate that, and the little kinda compassy thing around it. But I thought that gave it a little more life, so, so if you don't like that, we can talk about that too.
Is this green stuff up here, this is like Washington Island?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, it would be a blend of green to like it just looks better when it's a blend, like green to an earthy color, but it's just not printing out very good on here. Anyway, you know, those are things that can be worked out. And it looks like real green, it's more of a subtle green than that. Maybe on your printouts they look better, I wasn't able to print them out myself.
Look at you, Washington, confused people going to the ferry.
So just call me, and, I mean, you know, we definitely want to put the island on there, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
Because then, you know, if we end up putting Northport on there, then we can mark the ferry. So just, you know, a list of stuff like that would be great. And I mean, of course, I have the maps from other things I've done, so if you want me to submit something, just, I can do that. Okay?
Thank you. All right, I'll make a motion to proceed with the two welcoming signs, same as the Rowley Bay. And that we put those up for bids. And we can ask Pat.
So that'd be a total of 4 bids, John?
Well, yeah, I was gonna make a separate motion to do the two other welcoming signs, so we wouldn't include them, and we wouldn't have to put them up. We've got the two entrance signs on 57 and 42. Okay, I'll make a motion then to do the two entrance signs without the Rowley's Bay on them, but with both Ellison Bay and Gills Rock. And then also the two welcoming signs, one to Ellison Bay and one to Gills Rock. And go out for bids on those signs.
I'll second it just for
Okay,
discussion.
discussion.
So let's say that I'm Rowley's Bay, and I want to have a sign there. The town update in the fabrication of that sign?
Well, I think the thing to do here now, it goes back to Gary's, is to incorporate the cemetery signs with the signs welcoming to the different areas, the that would make sense, then you have a consistency.
You see, Raleigh's Bay is a feature, but the term Raleigh's Bay has been commercialized by Raleigh's Bay. I mean, if it was still wagon trail, then you could say, okay, Raleigh's Bay is a destination, a feature. It's a place where you can launch kayak and go up the Mink River Estuary. But since Raleigh's Bay Resort has taken over that name, it's a commercial entity. It doesn't, we don't have to do anything about it as far as I'm concerned.
That's not right. A lot of resorts take on that, I mean.
We don't do resort signs.
Well, you get the heat from in or the, like, it's, I mean, it's like heat from.
But Ephraim doesn't partake in signage.
Yeah. No, I think it should be a town project, town sign.
Right.
But Raleigh's Bay is the home of the Mink River Estuary.
But it doesn't belong to us.
Neither does Hills Rock or Ellison Bay.
But Gills Rock and Ellison Bay are commercial entities that we're trying to identify as commercial entities
So
and identify as destinations.
So I'd say the same for Ross Bay. It's commercial in there, trying to get people to go there.
I'm not sure we're trying to identify commercial entities more than the hamlets.
Right,
The-
right.
The concentration of, it's a semi-population. Yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I like to be okay. I'm gonna try this.
Okay. Passes 4-1. Okay, going on to, we have road closures for Old Ellison Bay. We have a list of those. Any questions? This is pretty standard.
Again, getting back to my comments last week with the, everything that's going on that particular weekend, I'm not opposed to the road closures. But as I went through the list of signs, the be prepared to stop sign should be used by all three entities because they're parking at the top of the hill, and that's where that sign goes. Tripods for above should be part of all three entities. I don't know about the detours in the road, so we're not closing any roads. And I guess my question is, have we received anything from Door County North or Ellison Bay Historical Society requesting signage or permission to put up signs?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's why I suggested last week that these people get together and find out who's doing what, because if we've got a list now from the Service Club, and we're gonna give them these 6 items, and Door County North and the Historical Society are gonna all of a sudden say, oh, maybe we ought to send a letter to the town hall. Trouble is, there won't be any signs for them to use. And even if there were only one set of signs, we should still have something on record from them saying that they are going to place something up to indicate where people are gonna park, the fact that people should slow down. There's the issue of police presence, usually at the top of the hill. I don't think we're gonna close Mink River Road for the cemetery walk. And I know that there's going to be taping involved by all three entities, and I think they need to get together and address that, so we know exactly what's going on. Other than that, I'd say, Ellison Bay has been requesting this information for 40-some years, so I would say go ahead.
Suggestion, just table this for another month.
Do it. somebody here says they're gonna get together and talk about it, if they're not gonna talk about it, then, well, I don't know what to do as a town.
I guess, all right,
We've got a cemetery walk going on, we've approved that,
right,
okay,
but they didn't ask for signage.
they didn't ask for signage. We have Uncork Summer going on, and contrary to what Nelson said last month, I don't believe they should just work it out. That's not the way you do things. You don't wait till the, bottom drops out and you got all this traffic and you don't know what to do with it, decide, well, maybe we ought to put parking over here or do this.
Okay. The town is not, at least at this point in time, the town does not issue permits for festivals, am I correct?
You know,
Okay. Not having, I'll use the term, not having that authority, then I'm not sure, we have a formal request here, which I think, because they're asking for utilization of, some town equipment or property. I think that's appropriate. We certainly can encourage these organizations to meet and get together, but I don't think there's any way we can actually force them to do that, unless we want to go down that road of permits for festivals. That gives you a lot more control as to what can and can't be done.
I guess my question would be, with Gary's identification of a potential problem, are we opening ourselves to vulnerability as far as liability goes? Knowing that a problem may exist and it seems to be growing with the success of the festivals, if we don't address it, are we more liable?
Similar line, same line, we have extra help from the police, who's liable for paying those folks.
Well, I think I'm assuming at this point in
They don't have to
time,
request the police.
yeah,
Usually it's the police auxiliary sits in a squad car with the lights on to let people know they have to slow down.
Does that cost $8 something?
Yeah.
Who pays that?
We paid, the Historical Society paid it for the Arcticat Fair and tractor show.
We're having a board meeting at Door County North on the 20th, and we'll take that under advisement if you want to wait till the next meeting.
And,
Do what you need to do.
and may I share that I have met with Janet Reiner and a couple of other people from the Ellis Bay Service Club so that they could map out to me exactly, trying to help me understand on a map all the things that you've pointed out. In addition, I've had email dialogue with Nancy, I believe it's Kurtz, with the Historical Society regarding developing a Google map. Ideally, again, just to try to have a digital presence for people to recognize this is where the preferred parking is, this is where the locations of these events are. In the past, I've done a Google map and we've shared it, and it's really helped people that are coming in town to be able to use with their mobile marketing, or excuse me, with their mobile devices to have a better sense of what's closed, where the parking is, those types of things. So it doesn't address all the things that you discussed, but I just wanted to let you know that we are in communication about these items.
well, we want to wait for the next meeting, or
Yeah.
the chair will take a motion, entertain a motion to place, or to table for the next meeting, excuse me.
Well, we're not talking. The agenda says talking about road closures, we're not even talking about that.
Well, they listed, but that deals with the state. Well,
Do we request road closure on 42, or does that come directly from the service club?
Service club does it, and has done it in the past.
We only do our local roads.
Just make an agenda item next month.
I would move that this particular item be tabled until next month to see what transpires as far as additional correspondence from the Door County North and Historical Society.
For a second,
I'll second.
discussion? No, you can't, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Good. Thank you. Yeah, that hurts. All right.
Now, the question, it's not on the agenda, so I'll mention it anyway. Do we want to pursue the concept of a festival ordinance?
Let's put that on the next agenda.
Does anybody know of anybody around here that has a festival?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's kind of a two-way street, but it does, I suppose in some ways, prevent some problems in the future. Okay, consider appraisal company for the Platinum Building. We were at that point where the discussion has led us to a point of where we actually need an appraisal. And I think that's the last step in the information gathering process before we get into, a discussion on whether this is a situation we want to really get involved in or not. And Janet, well, we've got some people on the list before we get there. Paul?
Possibly, I haven't heard anything yet.
Oh.
I may come back.
Well, Janet,
Shall I do this?
yeah, why don't you do that first, and then people will know what we're kind of looking at doing, so.
I called the bank. The bank gave me the name of 3 people to contact. I contacted them, and they are all residential. They don't do commercial. But they did give me the name of a couple of commercial appraisers. One of them is from Algoma, and I think the other guy was from Kiwani. It's Cornerstone Appraisers. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but his name is Scott Bordolini. He said his range for what we want him to do would be between 2,200 to 2,300. And then Kevin Dunham, he likes his job. Sent me a resume and everything. He had 2 different types he could do. A regular appraiser which would be between 2,000 to 2,500, or a restricted appraisal, which sounded to him more like what we would need, which would be about $300 less.
Less.
Yes. So you're looking at about between, whichever one you pick, between 1,700 and 2,500.
Did he give any indication of the difference between a restricted as opposed to?
He doesn't have to go as deep into the structure. He doesn't have to go up into the attic. And
I would imagine
a couple of different structural things that he wouldn't have to do. And both of them said if we could supply them with the report that we already have, it would help tremendously and possibly, keep
That
it
was
to
gonna
the
be my
lower
next
end.
question, okay. Makes sense.
Now, Paul. Please.
how much, you know, how many times are we gonna spend money to look at this? When a lot of the discussion has already been, yeah, it's a great property, it's a great view, it's exactly where it should be, except it's on the wrong side of the highway. There's so many other, you know, circumstances, so if we do another, you know, $2,500, and then decide with those same criteria that we're not gonna do it, I mean, are we gonna share this, that's the other part of it, are we gonna share this expense with Flotman's, or are we, is the town liable for all the expenses leading up to this decision? So there's, you know, more questions, I guess.
Okay. Carol?
If you'll forgive me, so I can get all my thoughts together and as briefly as possible, I put it all down on paper and I'm going to read it to you. So, first I would like to just reiterate, this is in relationship to the appraisal of the Flotman property. I would like to reiterate the importance of location as it affects safety, accessibility, and visibility when choosing the best site for an enhanced visitor info center and Niagara Escarpment Interpretive Center in Liberty Grove. As one of the many business owners who are off the main highway, it is imperative that a building which contains our promotional materials be very accessible. This became very clear during the summer when the information booth was removed from its present location, which is the Cephalonis property, and substituted by the small log building on the top of the hill on the Hanson Farm at the Grandview. Several of these businesses off the beaten track experienced the tragic loss of visitors to their businesses, to the point where some of them actually closed their doors for the summer due to the change. And then the miraculous increase when the information booth was finally returned at the end of the summer at the insistence of several of us who were members of Door County North, and said at that point it might not have been that on top of the thumb, but anyway. But it was clear that a location in downtown Allison Bay where the traffic is slow and business activity is attractive, meaning not beautiful, but attracting people, was the best location for attracting tourists. We urge you to keep an open mind towards considering other sites rather than the Flotman property, particularly those either in the center of town, such as the present location at the Cephalonis property, or close to the center, such as the town-owned community center women's club property, which has a lot to offer, including at 15 views of the escarpment. We hope that in addition to appraising the Flotman property, you will also investigate costs for developing building space at either of these two locations, the combined info center and escarpment center. One, the present location, and by the way, having just spoken with him a couple of days ago, he is still very eager to sell this property to the town, along with other perks. And the commercial center, the community center, women's club as the other one that, of course, we talked about rebuilding it. Do we just fix it or do we rebuild it? If so, that could be a perfect spot. And we hope that you will, if you are going to spend money on finding out about the estimated costs of doing whatever you need to the Flotman property, you also do the same with all the others that we hope you are still considering. And I hope that you will do that before making any decisions. Thank you for your consideration.
Jim?
You said it perfectly, I'll pass it.
Carl?
I'm trying not to be redundant. Oh, Carl's on for Gills Rock. Here's with what Carol said, we've been in some discussions on this, and The point that you have to look at from the Ellison Bay Liberty Grove concept is, in general, philosophically, we're in favor of a Niagara Escarpment Interpretive Center. This is a good thing, but it's not the only thing. You know, we have features in Liberty Grove that are outstanding and should also be emphasized, and I'll just mention a couple of them. First of all, the Mink River Estuary. This is a site of national importance, and you should give some consideration to promoting that as well. Secondly, our own Newport State Park, one of the few sanctuary parks in the state, has recently received designation as a dark skies park. This should also be promoted. We hope in the future that Ellison Bay will go down the Heritage Road and start coming up with actual designated roads as heritage roads with signs for bicyclists and walkers and leaf peepers and everybody else. There are so many beautiful things to promote here, including our lovely town parks, Sand Bay Park, Ellison Bay Park, the beaches and the little end of the roads parks, Murphy Park, not Murphy, but the one out at the end of my old view, and Ellison Park, whatever. All of these things should be featured and promoted. It is not just a Niagara Escarpment. We have a lot to sell here. This is a beautiful, beautiful area. We should push all of its features. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy?
Sure. Porcano. Kathy Ward, 1826 East Green Road in Ellison Bay. So I think I would be talking in my capacity with Door County North. I am one of the officers, and we were receptive to the idea of at least looking at a piece of property, and perhaps that we could share with the escarpment folks. Most of us feel like we need a larger space, and like Carl pointed out, there's so many features in all of Liberty Grove, and the features, the geographic features, of course, they're not members of Door County North, but we're trying to promote the whole area. And not just Ellison Bay and North, but a challenge for us is also, as what came up when we were talking about the signage, to incorporate those people, features, businesses that are in that southern Q part. I kind of call it the southern bookend myself to the town. You know, we need to do that too, and sometimes when we are in Ellison Bay, in the little information booth, we do tend to focus on Ellison Bay, and definitely a large portion of the membership of Door County North is, you know, in Ellison Bay or right outside of Ellison Bay. That's definitely a concentration. But I sort of keep preaching to our group that we have to make sure that we're inclusive to all of Liberty Grove, and maybe that's even just talking about more of these features and what else is out there when people do come into the information booth. The information booth is really small, and I've talked to a number of people on the board about trying to make it a little more user-friendly, even if we just have a counter instead of the desk when people come in. But that doesn't have anything to do with this issue, but other than the idea that we could make use of a larger space, I think it would serve the community, the businesses, and, you know, therefore all of Liberty Grove, if we could promote ourselves more, if we had a little bit, also more space, maps, just things for people to look at, and so they could orient themselves. So I think we would be in favor of pursuing, you know, it's gonna cost money to find out what things look like, and if it's feasible at all. You know, still recognizing that at the top of the hill, parking is going to be an issue. Visibility wouldn't be an issue, I don't know. But we are in favor of you know, looking to see what's out there that we can do, and certainly with what is already out there too. So that's pretty much the board's stance on that.
Thank you. Okay, I believe that's it. Couple observations and then we'll get to this. And I'm glad to hear the reference made that Door County North is considering all of Liberty Grove, not just Ellison Bay. There's a tendency, and I understand it, and we have a tendency to do it too, is to kind of focus back to Ellison Bay all the time, but we've got the rest of the towns to, you know, to consider. The other thing is, we're in an information gathering stage of this. If we go back, Hugh brought the possibility of an exchange with the Smith family at the harbor. We investigated that. We put into play these 5-year plans and so forth as a tool to investigate the future for the town and as a tool to investigate perhaps opportunities to enhance, you know, the community. So I kind of look at this as an opportunity to be probably the final step in the decision-making process. Now, I don't think the town is promoting the Niagara Escarpment. I think we're encouraging the Niagara Escarpment group. We're technically not involved in that. It's a separate entity in and of itself. We don't really, well, I guess in a way we promote Door County North from the standpoint that we do provide them with funds. And those funds that come out of room tax money, which I think is totally appropriate. And I believe the money set aside for the rental, initially in the budget this year for perhaps the Flotman building was coming out of the room tax funds as well. So the residents of Liberty Grove are, at this stage of the game, not obviously funding it. It's coming out of the room tax fund. Thinking of a location at an entrance to the community, the Door County Ice Cream Factory probably is gonna come up for sale, and I think he has plans to build in Sister Bay. I mean, that's a great location. But, okay, that's, at least at this point in time, that's my thought. Let's throw it open for conversation. Not the ice cream factory.
It's my understanding though, and I agree with what Carl said about the very many things we have. It sounds like that's more of a marketing plan, but I've always thought of the escarpment or an international escarpment center being a keystone to economic development in Northern York. There are two things I think that are necessary for economic development in Northern York. One is an infrastructure of high-speed internet, and the other one is something like an escarpment center, because the escarpment center, an international one, fits in with who we are. We are a rural area that has scenic beauty and geologic and historic importance. We're not going to make an amusement park out of Northern Door. But when you hear, Marilyn Hansotia reported months and maybe years ago on her trip to the Canadian version of the International Escarpment, and there were 440,000 people a year who went to the Bruce Peninsula in Canada, which we would have as the counterpart in the United States. Bringing in all the other features as opposed to focusing on the escarpment center would actually happen because of the fact that with such an internationally recognized feature, we would have the ability to market the other things we have in Liberty Grove. But to me, the town's encouragement of the escarpment center is really no different than what we've done to encourage people who put towers up for internet usage and things like that. Because if you look at the big picture, those are the two keystones to economic development.
Anybody else on it, please?
Yeah, I look at the appraisal process. So far, we've gone through the negotiation process, or at least started negotiations, feeling the owners out with, what about this, what about that. We've gone through the inspection. We've gone through finding out how much it would cost to remediate some of the things that the inspections brought out. I consider the professional appraisal as part of the due diligence process. No one would think of buying or entering into a contractual agreement about a property without going through the steps to know that they're dealing with facts, not suppositions, but the actual facts, so that we have all the pieces of the puzzle. We may get an appraisal and look at it and go, that's it, that's a deal breaker. Or we may look at that, and I don't know what the answer will be. We may look at it and say, we might be able to do this. I look at the parking up at the top of the hill there that's been talked about a lot by both the GODC Board of Directors and the town. I see that as a challenge, not as a stopper of a roadblock. There are options, and all I can say at this time is we are exploring those options. And I'm not saying that we as a town board, we as a GODC board are exploring options for meeting that challenge and getting around it. Like the Dean Johnson building, which we had talked about years ago, we could not bring Mr. Johnson to the table to even get him agreed to an inspection. We would have gone through the same due diligent process of having septic inspected, home inspected, everything to find out exactly what we were dealing with. We were ready to move forward. That hasn't happened. It is something that any property that the board is interested in for whatever reason, it's only prudent use of public funds to make sure all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed, and we know exactly the facts we're dealing with before we sign on the dotted line.
Anybody else?
I'd like to, if we can. When Paul came up here, he said, mention location, and I've always heard that the three rules of real estate are location, location, and location. And I think Paul said it quite well, is that when people are northbound on the highway, they're looking at the water, and when they're southbound, they're getting on Dodge. And so I think that to put an information booth at that location is not as productive as putting it downtown. I forget who said business increased dramatically when it was downtown. And so in that regard, I just don't think that it's a great location. There's other things that I think are hindering. Al Johnson gets a huge amount of traffic for his restaurant, and a lot of that traffic is created by the goats. The food's great, but the goats add a lot to it. And the building we're looking at tonight, or talking about tonight, really has little architectural appeal from a standpoint of being an attractive building. And I don't know what you could do to it, but I think that's important when you're buying something like that you consider that. Of course, that would come out somewhat in the appraisal. I'm not sure that this town should spend a couple $1,000 on appraisal for building. You can negotiate the thing, and then either you're gonna buy it or you're not gonna buy it. If you get an appraisal that's too high, you're gonna say no. If you get one that's too low, the departments are gonna say no. So I don't really see a lot of benefit for an appraisal. You look at the appraisal the town has already paid for with the property taxes, and it's probably pretty close to what the building's worth. At least it should be. It's supposed to be what percent, but of accuracy.
I don't have that folder here.
It's like 100%, right?
The assessed value is 110%.
1.1.
That's a little lower than assessed.
That's probably where you're gonna get, you gotta see if that's a doable number for you. So, I guess I would have a difficult time supporting this, and talking about the escarpment center, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think the ridges, you know, are they supported by Millis Harbor? The clearing's an important part of our area up here. We shouldn't support them, I don't think. So why would we, you know, the escarpment people should be on their own, I think, same as the ridges, same as the clearing. Sorry to bother everyone here tonight. No one seems to be listening.
All of the conversation seems to center on why we shouldn't get this property. We aren't even at the point of making an offer on this property. But, like Carol said, and has been said by others, if we're going to investigate a property, then we need to investigate it as far as we need to go to make a intelligent decision on the property. Right now, I don't care if they're northbound or southbound. Is it a viable piece of property? We need an appraisal to find out. The Women's Center, Hugh came up with some great ideas for the Women's Center. And as far as I know, that's still open for discussion. But there were all kinds of reasons not to use that building, you know, other than the fact that it was built in 1862 and blah, blah, blah. But still, Carol brought it up, it's another option. And we need to take a look at everything that deals with that particular option. And I think the same thing goes with this. There's funds available, we don't have to go out for a special assessment or anything like that. And I think we need to get an appraisal and find out what is really involved with this building, and then make a decision as to yea or nay.
All right, just for everybody's edification on this, the discussional development that we had basically centered on the concept of a 3-year lease. And at the end of the 3-year lease, which we looked at as a trial process, a decision would have to be made to either purchase or abandon. Now, in both cases, lease or rent if you want, or purchase, it comes back to the town electorate. The only way that the board, now this, in my estimation, can make an intelligent decision on this is to get all the information gathered. When we have that together, you go to the citizens and say, okay, this is our thought, this is what it's going to cost, this is how we've investigated it, and go right down the line, so everybody knows what has been done and the playing field is level. At this stage of the game, the playing field's not level. And I agree, I hear people say it's a safety issue, it's a parking issue. Of course, the safety issue is never gonna go away there. It's gonna be there whether that building is there as an information center, an escarpment center, a private residence, or a business. It's going to be there. And until the state, you know, would step in and do something there on speed limits and so forth, and I'm not sure that would help. But if we don't get the information together, and Gary brought up, and this is again for everybody's information, at the annual town meeting, we are going to have a discussion on what we call the Women's Club or Community Center. Gary's going to present the information that the town now has gathered as to what it's going to cost us to bring that building up to snuff, all the maintenance, or we discuss would it be more viable to take that building, and he was put together some plans for it and ideas for it. Would it make more sense to take the building down and build something there that could be used year-round, and for whatever purposes we would like to use it for? So I guess I'm not thrilled by the, by the cost involved here, but as I pointed out before, the cost is not coming from the town electors, the town taxpayers at this point. It's coming out of the room tax, which I feel very fortunate that the board and finance committee has said, let's use those funds to promote tourism in our community. And I think that's the appropriate thing to do. A lot of the municipalities in the county do not do that. But I think it's fortunate for us that we've been willing to do that.
And I think to add one more thing, I've recently heard a rumor going around that it's a supposition from an inexpert opinion, if you will, that the Plattman building will cause a fortune to rehab and will never recoup any of that money. I would like to let it be known that in the negotiations with the Plattmans, up to $20,000 of any rehabilitation that we as a town would put into that building would be taken right off the top of any purchase price after the rental. So, just FYI.
If I might, to Hugh's point, I think Hugh's point is very well taken about, the analogy between the escarpment and the town of Liberty Grove on the one hand, and the clearing for the ridges and Bailey's Harbor on the other hand. I don't know what the relationship between Bailey's Harbor and the ridges has been or continues to be, and perhaps there had been encouragement on the part of Bailey's Harbor to have the ridges remain there or whatever. I don't know whether that's the case or not. And certainly the clearing's been around, and there's no support. But to me, the distinguishing factor here this is analogous in my mind to what the town is doing very wisely with supporting Door County North. I mean, this is a way of developing the economy of Northern Door by giving, by recognizing the fact that that little incentive, and governments give incentives all the time to businesses in various forms, that little incentive might reap a lot in the long run. The idea of the escarpment is going to happen, whether it happens here in Northern Door or it happens someplace else, where a community recognizes the fact that they have an opportunity to develop economically where they are. It will happen. We either encourage it as a form of economic development, just like we do Door County North, or we just bury our heads in the sand. I think it's way premature to think that that is going to be the interpretive center or anything like that. That is just a stake in the ground. And secondly, though, I wrote down, when Carol was speaking, I think the Ellison Bay Information Center should stay right where it is. But we're talking about a Liberty Grove visitor center at the top of the hill, not necessarily to be permanent there either, as opposed to an Ellison Bay Information Center. And the exact things that Carl emphasized should be emphasized in a Liberty Grove Information Center as well, which we don't have.
Okay, any other discussion anybody has? If not, I'll make a motion to contract, is it Dummin?
Yes.
Dummin? What's the official name?
The official name is Dummin Appraisal Group.
The Dummin Appraisal Group for a restricted commercial appraisal of the Plattman building not to exceed $2,200, and that amount of money comes out of the money set aside in the current budget that would have paid for the rental of the Plattman building. Is there a second? Second.
Who?
I'm sorry, Gary's the second.
Gary?
Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Okay, going on to correspondence. Before we get to the correspondence, a couple things I wanted to mention. You should be receiving, well, the Town of Liberty Grove residents, Gibraltar residents, Village of Sister Bay residents, and the town of Bailey's Harbor residents should be receiving in the mail a postcard from NWTC inviting people to participate in a survey. And it's an online survey, I believe it's what, 15 questions?
Yeah, it's very
10 to
short.
15 questions, very short. And it has to do with the regional learning center that they are proposing and gathering information on for Northern Door County. They will be here on May 7th for an open house, and they will be bringing at least one, if not several, of their semi-trailers that are portable learning centers, and for people to, you know, to visit and take a look at. At this point, and I've said this before in meetings, they're very, very interested in doing something in Northern Door County. And again, I would encourage people to come to the annual town meeting, and especially that participation in the discussion of the women's code. Okay, correspondence.
We have a letter from Community Insurance, one of our carriers, that we will be getting a refund due to our workers' comp audit of $378. Meeting notice for the Resource Planning Committee for tomorrow, starting at 2 o'clock on the clearing request and the Beerman request for conditional use. A letter from Door County Soil and Water regarding a proposal, if you will, to tile a field at the intersection of Highview and Lakeview Roads. This is being proposed by Mr. Gerald Falls. The owner has offered to pay for it. The issue from my standpoint, and I showed it to Mike Walker from the Highway Committee, is this is intended to dump the water into the ditch on Lakeview, and then the question is, where does the water go? Is it going to affect anybody down the street? The soil is Somerville type soil, mapped at 10 inches to 20 inches of soil over bedrock. And the important factor in proper tile installation and effectiveness is to have it buried approximately 3 feet. So there is a limiting factor on the field, and Mr. Bolts and or the owner is going to be doing some soil sampling, some depth sampling this summer to see if indeed there is enough to do that tiling project. There is no other land in Northern Door County that is tiled at this point, so this has been looked at very carefully. An April 4th letter from Robert E. Lee and Associates. This comes out of the Utilities Committee meeting from yesterday. There's a grid upgrade for the treatment plant, and they received 4 bids for the project ranging from $185,000 to $275,500, and they took the lowest responsible bidder, which is August Winters and Sons, for $185,600. A letter from Otis Elevator to the town stating that they have completed their inspection of the elevator as they do yearly. Postcard from the DNR that says they have the master lists of the forest crop law and managed forest law parcels in the town, and they have a website now that we can access, anyone can access to get a list of these properties in the town. That's it.
Okay, future meetings?
Tomorrow, as mentioned, the RPC at 2 o'clock for the bidding and the Beerman conditional uses. Monday morning at 8 o'clock, the Highway Committee meets. We'll be opening bids for paving, chip sealing, and the stormwater pipe project on Cedar Branch Road. Plan Commission on the 13th at 7 o'clock. On the 14th, there's a joint meeting between Econ and Planning regarding the information on the Ellison or Gillies Harbor project that was conducted some time ago. Door County Coastal Byway meets Thursday, the 14th at 8 a.m. at Sebastopol. The town annual meeting is the 19th. Part of the presentation will be Dortran and Humane Society. Town board meets on the 20th, 7 o'clock. Focus group here by NWTC on the 21st at 6:30. On the 21st, there's also a retirement party for Madam Curzon.
Betty Curzon.
Betty Curzon. At the library, there will be refreshments involved in that one. It's in the afternoon sometime. I don't recall the actual time. I do remember the time on the next one at the AC Tap. That's on the 22nd, where Steve Jacobson beginning at 2 o'clock. On the 27th, Wednesday at 9:30, NWTC will be meeting again on the project here. And that is it for April.
But the library commission meets on Tuesday the 12th.
Okay, and we have, or are in the process of sending a letter to Steve Jacobson, thanking him for his service at the wastewater treatment plant, which services our sanitary district as well. I don't have a rules tonight, but I do have a quote. It's from Leon Botstein, and I must have been thinking about tonight's meeting with this one. It says, original ideas come from reassembling knowledge in new ways, but you need to have that knowledge in your mind before you can reassemble it. I move we adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.